everybody, Stephen John here from GonnaGeek.com and from Better Podcasting. Today, doing a follow-up to an article that I wrote on the Gonna Geek site and something we talked about on Better Podcasting. This is all about Google indexing RSS feeds. If you go to geeks.link/Google RSS, you'll see the backstory. The long story short is that for a long time, people have felt that Google isn't indexing RSS feeds because they weren't showing up in the results. And now I'm seeing that the RSS feeds are actually showing within results, right there amongst other things. Now, why are they doing this? I don't know. I'm not an SEO guru. I say that in the article, but what's really interesting about this is that before, if you saw an RSS feed, it never really showed up in the usual fashion, but now they're right there amongst other results. So this is going to be interesting to follow because does it affect SEO? I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. Is it something that it's Google in the process of rolling out a new feature? Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know. But I've had some people question, is it my location? Is it because I was using Chrome? What are the reasons? And honestly, it's all of the above because Google changes depending on your browser, depending on your search, depending on your location, your cookies, all these things. Google will show different results to different people. And today I'm going to go through and I'm going to hit three main search terms using Opera as well as using the VPN mode so that we can see, well, Google thinks I'm in different locations in a different browser. We'll see how these three search terms stack up in a few different countries. So it's going to be a fun test. And then I'm going to flip back to Chrome and show you a couple of other things that I discovered within Chrome that admittedly I haven't seen shown up in Opera. And I don't know, maybe there's a way that I can search and they'd show up. I don't know, but I want to show a couple extra terms and the differences that I've just seen even using my local connection, the difference between using google.ca and google.com, because as you know, there are different Google locals depending on your country. So let's flip this in here and show you. This is Opera. So I'm going to first start by clearing my browser history. I'm going to go ahead and shut off the VPN mode. And then just to show you for good measure, I'm going to go to the private mode. Now, the search terms that I'm going to go ahead and focus on here is, the first one is Nerdist. Now, Nerdist is a very, very large group. It is a large website, Chris Hardwick's project. And the first thing that we'll see here is that Nerdist is going to have a bunch of hot information here because they are quite a large website. You've got top stories, you've got Twitter, a bunch of stuff there. So Nerdist here, first off, doesn't appear to be in page 1, but I've actually just skipped to page 3, so you can see it looks like they're showing up in page 3 right there. Nerdist.libsyn.com/RSS. I was planning on going through page by page, but I just got click happy and went to page 3. So there you go. There's the RSS feed on page 3 using my local. So this is my local connection. The next one that I want to go ahead and search here is Ask the Podcast Coach. Now, Ask the Podcast Coach is a nice podcast Saturday morning show that you want to check out if you're into podcasting. There's some good information on there. There's Dave Jackson, Jim Collison. And the reason why I like to search them is because they have a whole bunch of other links throughout the web because they've tried a bunch of different streaming services. So that name is everywhere. So let's take a look here. Ask the Podcast Coach. Looks like they are not on page 1. Is there any RSS on page 2? Yes, there is. So using my local page 2, there they are, askthepodcastcoach.libsyn.com/RSS. And if I go in, Opera doesn't like RSS feeds, but you can see it's right there. Now, the third one that I want to do is my former podcast, Fanboy Buzz, because this podcast is dead. But why I found this one really interesting in my searches was that I find that often when I search Fanboy Buzz podcast, the feed is right up top. Look at this right here. The first result is actually my RSS feed. How crazy is that? Mind blowing to me. I don't get it. I really don't get it. But yeah, that's pretty shocking. And I'm surprised that that's there. Now, we're going to go ahead and enable some VPN features so we can do those results again. So let's go ahead and close this down. I'll clear the history again, just to make sure it's all fresh. I'll enable the VPN. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the States. So this should kick in here in a sec. I'll do the same thing, go to the private mode. I am in the States. Go to google.com. and see here. Yep, it's taking me to google.com. And we'll do the same results again, or same searches again. So Nerdist, pretty similar. Going through here, doesn't appear to be on page 2. And page 3 right there. There they are. There's their RSS feed, and it looks like I am in Oregon. So that's where it believes that I am is in Oregon. The next one, of course, is Ask the Podcast Coach again. Let's take a look at that. And right here, wow. Okay, so if I was in Oregon, page 1, the RSS feed would show up. That's crazy. Page 1. We're getting an RSS feed result, which might be confusing for me if I was a searcher, if I was a potential listener. Getting that right there. And the last one, of course, is the Fanboy Buzz podcast. Let's take a look at that. And what do we got? Again, first, taking me right to the RSS feed, which is crazy. Absolutely mind-blowing to me that my former podcast has the feed showing up first. Very odd. All right, let's switch over here. I'll do the same thing. And we'll take a look. We'll switch over the VPN to... Oh, wait for it to load. Why is it not letting me switch? Maybe I have to... Let's take a look here. Maybe I have to go to Google or something. Let's see here. Well, this is odd. Let's turn off the VPN and turn it back on. There we go. Let's go to Germany. Let's become German for a minute. And again, we'll go to google.com. Double check we're showing in Germany, which it appears we're headed that direction from the local. Now let's do the same results. So Nerdist. What are we getting in Nerdist? Looks like not page 2. Looks like Nerdist might not be showing up. Oh, there it is at the bottom. Okay, so page 3 just a little bit further down. Let's do Ask the Podcast Coach again. Where are we getting it, if we're getting it at all? Does not appear to be page 1, but it seems to be page 2 in Germany. And then let's find out about that Fanboy Buzz podcast again. Aha, it is not the first this time, which is nice to see, but it's still pretty high up, pretty surprising to see. It's above the main Fanboy Buzz website, which is kind of sad. All right, let's hop over to the Netherlands, and this will be the last one before I show you some other results that I saw show up and some differences. I'll do the same thing where I'll clear some things out. I'll open up the private mode, and we'll go to the Google local again. And, oh, it looks like the VPN didn't take. So let's go ahead and fix that again. Turn that off and back on. I'm not much of an Opera user, so this is admittedly new to me. So I'm sorry if you're an Opera user and you're saying, Steven, you're doing it wrong. My bad. Let's take a look here. Oh, forgot the private mode. Is it going? Taking a while. Does show the Netherlands. Okay, so let's do the same terms again. Nerdist. Not showing page 1. Let's go to page 2. Is it on page 2? It is. They are on page 2 in Netherlands. Let's go with Ask the Podcast Coach again. Ask the Podcast Coach. And looks like page 1 for the Netherlands. So right there, RSS. And then let's go again for that wonderful Fanboy Buzz podcast and see where it shows up. And look, it's restored back to number 1. So very interesting. That's interesting to me to see. I'm a little surprised to see such differences between the different regions, but I shouldn't be, because really Google does this all the time. Just depends on your location, things like that. It's definitely something that a lot of people don't realize, but it will sort depending on where you're at. So some other searches that I want to show you here, and I'll just hop back to the screen. Again, this is a Google private mode. Now, this is the Canadian local, and I want to show, again, some differences that I've seen here. So the first one that I'm going to go ahead and show here is using this is incognito mode, using google.ca. If I search for the Adam Carolla podcast, which I'm spelling wrong, Carolla podcast, what do we see on this page here? Right on the bottom of page 1, this is my local here, google.ca. I am seeing the RSS feed. But if I go over here, and if I go to google.com, and I go to use google.com, and I type in the Adam Carolla podcast, and I spelled that wrong again, the Adam Carolla podcast, it's not actually showing up here, which is really weird. But again, it just depends, I guess, on the regional differences. Same thing, it's not on page 2. So obviously I searched this in advance, but I saw that. But if I go ahead and I search here for the feed, this is Libsyn's official podcast. I'll go Libsyn, the feed podcast. So I think that would be a reasonable term. On here, using google.com, so again, this is google.com, as you can see. Right here, I'm getting the feed's RSS. But if I take this same search, and I go back to google.ca, so I go Libsyn, the feed podcast. This is again using google.ca. Nowhere is that RSS feed seen for us Canadians. Really weird. Really weird that that's not showing up. Now, to show you another difference as well, if I go and I search for the feed Libsyn podcast on google.ca, if I take a look, there it is right there. I scroll too far down. The RSS feed is right there for them there. But again, if I go back to google.com and I type that same term in, the feed Libsyn podcast. Oh, I didn't switch to google.com. Go to google.com. Libsyn. No, sorry. The feed Libsyn podcast. It's not showing up. So google.ca, google.com differences, just, using the same location. It's really weird how that is. There's just some minor differences, but I'll show you this. The feed Libsyn official podcast. Now, all of a sudden, it is, I believe it shows up on here if I remember correctly. Or I'm just making things up, which could very well be as well. I thought it was here, but maybe it's disappeared in a couple hours since. Oh no, there it was, page 1. There it was. I just scrolled over it. So really odd to me, the differences that are on there. And I could have just hid the differences, but I didn't want to hide the differences because I think it's important to recognize that just because your RSS feed isn't showing up for your searches right now doesn't mean it's not showing up for your potential listeners. This is a clear example that your region makes a difference, your browser makes a difference, your actual Google local, whether you're using google.ca or google.com or any of the other Googles, it all makes a difference. And so just because you're not seeing it doesn't mean that your potential listener isn't seeing it. As well, the search term, everybody's search is a little bit different, which is why I wanted to show the feed examples where it does vary depending on how you're searching. So absolutely, it appears Google is indexing RSS feeds. Where they show up, when they show up, I don't know. Why they show up, I don't know. But it is something that I think everybody should keep their eyes on right now. And I know this was a pretty long-winded demo, but I just wanted to really dive into it and just show the differences that you can see within different Google searches and how they sometimes show up and how sometimes they don't. But it still shows that Google is indexing RSS feeds. So where that's going to take us, I don't know. But I, in any case, would recommend that if you have an RSS feed, make sure you pay attention to your higher tags. Is there somehow a reference back to your main website if that's where you're wanting people to go? Because if they happen to stumble into it using a browser where you see the tags, don't you want a reference back to your main website? It's probably a good idea. As well, if you have a way that you can kind of capitalize on that as far as SEO goes, you might want to consider that also. I'm not a SEO guru. I will never admit to being an SEO guru. Not even close. But if this is showing up in Google results, I think RSS feeds, we might be at the time where right now, we have to consider that they are an SEO element. So I don't know. How does that play in? You can go pay somebody to tell you all about SEO. I'm not that guy, but I can tell you that doing these tests here, you can see Google is indexing RSS feeds and they show up through a variety of different ways and browsers and things like that. So it's not just a browser. It's not just one location. It's not just one search term. It's not using just quotes or not using quotes. It's a bunch of different ways that these are showing up. So I hope that video helped clear some things up. Again, I know it's long-winded, and if you like what you saw or you want to see some more geeky stuff, please check out gonnageek.com. And if you like to hear about podcast stuff, betterpodcasting.com. That is the podcast that me and my co-host Stargate Pioneer do all about podcasting. Thanks for watching another video from Gonna Geek. If you have any other questions, comment in the comments below, or just send me an email at steven@gonnageek.com. Thanks!